5, 4, 3, 2. All right, guys. So I am Audra Sisak. I am based out in Seattle. So if you don't know where Seattle is, it is in Washington State, which is in the United States. So, and I know many of you are in other countries. So, and I'm just going to do one quick thing while I do gallery mode. I don't like looking at myself. um, so just to give you a little bit about myself before we begin with the presentation, because I PowerPoint, I am autistic myself. I have epilepsy, major depressive disorder, anxiety disorder. I have a lot of things that come with me. I also am a storyteller, actor, comedian, and therapist. So I have lots of experience in this field. I use storytelling and acting to help my clients with like life skills and executive functioning and basically helping them live their everyday lives because I know how much it helped me. And I still remember all those traditions and all those things that like my grandparents would tell me while they were helping, raise me because I would stay with them all the time, right? So that's a little bit about me. I also have a son who's autistic and has epilepsy. So again, just I have so much experience all around. um, so again, you're going to see me stimming quite a bit today because that's what I do. um, so let's get right into it. I'm going to share my screen here, which is Eric, if you can give me sharing abilities.
Yes, I'm sorry. I have to make you co-host. I'll do that right now.
No problem. All
Whoops.
this technical stuff. In the meantime, you guys can all look at the Space Needle, which is our main point in Seattle. This is why I had this up here.
Okay, your co-host.
All right. And so unfortunately, what I have learned, as you see my screen doing something very weird, is I have to stop my screen anytime I share mine. So it's very unfortunate. All right, so I hope everyone can see that. So we're going to start out with the basics. Basically, what is autism and what is storytelling? And then we're going to go into talking to an audience of autistic individuals, and then talking about the autistic storyteller and how to support from both sides. So basically, what is autism? Well, by definition, it's this neurological and developmental disorder. We have these traits that at a very young age we can see and that can be diagnosed at any age. We communicate differently, we can learn differently, and we just process things in a very different way. I guess like we take things very literal. We see things through a different lens. And I'm trying to think of an example might be that if I came into a room and you asked me, actually a good thing was just now when Eric said, I want you to count to 5. I took that for the literal. So I went 5, 4, you saw me just, okay, I'm counting to 5. I'm counting down from 5 because I wasn't given that clear instruction right before, or I didn't hear it. I didn't process it right away that, oh, I'm supposed to do that when he tells me to. There are different levels of autism now that they have, which falls under what we call neurodivergence. That is a new term that you've probably heard. Neurodivergence just means that our brain thinks differently than a typical brain. We diverge, or we are divergent from the straight line, right? We diverge from somewhere else, from that linear thinking. And we have level 1, 2, and 3. I put in parentheses that the old diagnoses that you might recognize them as, everybody now is autism spectrum disorder when you see it as a medical diagnosis. But before, it used to be like Asperger's, classic autism, or you might have seen pervasive developmental disorder on a diagnosis. But it really does include Rett syndrome, nonverbal learning disorder. There's now a whole list that falls under autism. And I just want everyone to understand that this is not an exhaustive list. I do understand that in different countries, some have different classifications on how they diagnose than here in the United States. I found that out in the UK. They have a very different system about how they do it. So what does it mean for storytelling when you're talking about a person who's autistic? Well, for us, it might mean, because we process different and learn differently, we're going to need different, we're going to need a different set of rules or engagement with the storytelling. I was listening to the previous person who was talking about, this wonderful format, and it was very interesting about the challenger and the a mentor. And with someone who's autistic, we may not always have that, formal format in a story. We may not always get it, because what's more important to us is that purpose. We may want repetitiveness. We want repetitiveness because when it's repetitive, we're going to learn it better. We want sensory engagement. And sensory is using all of those senses, your smells. Right now, because I love to help me with my own anxiety right now, I have on apple lotion, so I'm smelling apple. We want certain lights. Maybe we need low lighting, touch. Maybe we want lots of touch. Maybe we want no touch. So it's getting to know that person. For a lot of learning, and a lot of autistic people love visual and tactile learning. Tactile is actually physically touching something. In order for me to learn something or to really be engaged with a story, I have to see it and I have to touch it. A good example of this was really back when I was in school. I actually have a master's. If you guys don't know, I have a master's degree in biomedical sciences and psychology. When I was learning, the best way for me to do it was physically to go into the lab and see the stuff in the lab, in the science lab. So that was my favorite part, to go in, to read the book, to see the lab samples, to do the science experiments. That's how I learned. And of course, like I said, engaging those senses. We're not always going to sit still. We're going to get up. We're going to move around. Before I started my little thing here, you probably saw me on screen. I'm moving, I'm dancing, I'm drinking, I'm rubbing my hands together. And I was still listening to, I believe her name was Lonnie, because that's how I'm learning. That's how I'm engaged. If I were to stand straight still, I'm now not thinking about the storyteller or my own story. I'm thinking about, oh my gosh, I have to keep my body completely still. And that's all I'm thinking about. my other senses are not engaged. That could be true for a lot of autism in any kind of learning situation, I think, not just storytelling. So why is storytelling so important for autistic people? Here it is, passing on traditions. Like I said, my grandmother, I remember everything she ever told me that I believe was important to me and for my future. She would sit and tell me recipes, stories about family, and how to basically move about my day. One of the things I do remember is she would always say, Audra, if you'd just do a little bit of chores every day, then it wouldn't be a pile of stuff at the end of the week. And I can remember still watching her do, even into her, well into her 70s, doing laundry every single day, just a little bit. And she would tell me a story as she was doing the laundry. And how do I remember that? Because I was watching, physically watching her doing the laundry and picking it up and listening to those stories as she was doing it. Because again, we're engaging and we're learning in that different manner. We're teaching about performance and public speaking. And I'm not just talking about as a storyteller, and performance piece, which is great because if, you're an autistic person and you want to be a storyteller, performance is definitely something that's important. But it's great for every part of your life. We have to get up and talk to somebody every part of our lives. And this is really important for teaching and going to the store, talking to your doctors, and advocating for yourself. It helps us understand our emotions and our feelings. It is very hard to describe. I bet if I asked any of you in the audience right now, it's very hard to describe a feeling. If I asked you what is happy, you might tell me a story. You might tell me a memory of what makes you happy. And I may or may not relate to that because that's not my story. But what I can do is have empathy, and I can try and understand it from your perspective with your visual and sensory engagement. I love to see from others' perspective because it's not just about me. I think the previous person said that as well. I think was Jeff actually. It's not just about my voice, it's about all of our voices and getting a perspective from everybody, because we all have our own story and our own way of seeing things and understanding it. And especially as an autistic person, whether you're a storyteller or not, like I said, there's always something that we can share from both sides. I personally share nonfiction stories. I'm a comedic storyteller since I'm a comedian. So all my stories are about my personal life. I don't do fiction. However, I love fictional stories from other people. Because again, I love that engagement. What you'll see me doing sometimes is I won't look at the storyteller. You'll see me looking away because I'm listening to the words and I'm listening to what they're saying because I'm trying to follow along with the story. One storyteller that we're going to have come up here pretty soon, and I'm just going to use them as an example, which is Banu, and it still sticks with me to this day because I see part of their story in my head, the crow. I still sing it every day. It's now part of my routine and part of my own echolalia.
Audra,
Uh-huh.
I just want to interrupt for a moment.
Sure.
Somebody is painting a yellow line on the PowerPoint, and
I do see it.
You don't see it?
Oh, I know. Yes, I do see it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Now, the person who's doing it may not even know that the person is doing it, or the person who's doing it may not know how to undo it. But
Right.
if the person who's doing it knows knows what the person is doing and is able to erase it, it'd be nice if that person would erase it. But anyway, keep going, Audra.
Yeah, thank you. See, that's another really good example of like impromptu improv things that may come up. I am very well aware of working with kids that, sometimes things come up, technology is different. I think 5 years ago that may have thrown me for a loop and would have caused me to get way off my own course, but now thankfully I've learned how to move forward. There, so storytelling does, because with all of that said, storytelling in the storytelling world, because I am president of a guild, there is a formal structure, which is the introduction, a plot, you've got some sort of twist going on, an arc that happens with the key event bringing everything together, and then having an ending. Well, for an autistic person telling a story, that's not always going to happen, and we'll get into that. For an autistic listener, they may not always catch all of that. So sequencing may not always be as important for the formal structure. But I wanted everyone to see that there is one out there, but we shouldn't always be so strict about that particular format, even though I know that some guilds and some companies kind of are. Because why? There's so many formats of telling a story. I mean, I think we have a TV show out. I don't watch it, but there's that TV show, So You Think You Can Dance. Those people are telling a story through dance, right? There's the Nutcracker, tells a story through dance. We have film, video games, got oral, obviously. Communication devices. That's the one that I really want to touch on today, because, and put a little emphasis on, we have a lot of non-speaking autistic individuals out there who are not having a voice heard. They can have devices where they can put their stories or pictures or however they're going to communicate within their devices. And that can be shown or presented in some sort of way. One of my favorite comedians out there is from the UK, and his nickname or his stage name is called the Lost Voice Guy. And he was actually on Britain's Got Talent. I've worked with him. I kind of know him. And he does not speak. He's got cerebral palsy. He's, paralyzed basically from the neck down. And he does all of his sets and storytelling through his communication device. And it's amazing to watch. So with that said, I want to bring up one of my favorite people now. I'm going to stop sharing my screen because, again, this person got stuck in my head with their story. And Banu loves to tell their stories through puppets. And again, it's visually engaging. She has that tactile piece. There's repetitiveness. And when you listen to her story, which she's going to tell today, I want you to just take notes of not just the story, because the story has a message too, obviously, right? But just the way that she performs and the way she tells the story, which I think is very engaging. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Banu.
Thank you, Audra.
Yeah.
That was a wonderful introduction to what is all about autism and how to deal with them. So I tell stories to young children with autism, with maybe with very heavy autism, I would say. So I use, as Audra said, I use puppets and I use tactile devices to share stories to them. So let me just directly jump into the story. This is a crow. This is a crow. This is a crow. Can you all do a crow? Crow, 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 crow. Yes. And this is a peacock. This is a peacock. This is a peacock. Can we all do together? Show your fingers on your left hand and show one of your right hand finger, the index finger. Bend it down, keep it here. We have peacock, peacock, peacock. And this is a peacock feather, peacock feather, peacock feather, crow, peacock, and peacock feather. One day, the crow went to the river to drink some water. As the crow looked down into the water, the crow said, I am ugly. I am not colorful. Only the peacocks are colorful. I want to become a peacock. I want to be a peacock. So saying, the crow walked by the river. Just then, the crow spotted a peacock feather. A peacock feather. Do you want to touch the peacock feather? Do you want to feel it? Show me your hand. Come on. Feel the peacock feather. You want to touch and see? Yes. Feel it? Peacock feather. The crow picked the peacock feather and fixed it onto its head and felt happy and felt happy. So the crow picked more peacock feathers and went to the peacock group and said, hello, peacocks. I am a peacock too. May I join your group? May I join your group? The peacocks looked at the crow and said, ha ha ha, you are not a peacock. See how your feathers are falling down. Go away, go away, go away. The peacocks shooed the crow away. The crow felt very sad. The crow felt very sad. It dropped the peacock feather and flew to its friends. The crow flew to its friends and said, crow friends, may I join you? May I join you? But the crow friend said, no way. You don't want to be a crow. You wanted to be a peacock. Go away. Go away. The crows too shooed him away. Finally, there was one crow who understood this crow, and he said, do you realize your mistake? Yes, I do. I'm sorry. The crow apologized and he got a friend crow, and they lived happily ever after. This is a crow. Crow. Can we all do crow? Crow, crow. This is a peacock. Can we all do a peacock? Peacock, peacock, peacock. And this is a feather. Peacock feather. Do you want to touch it? Yes, show your hand. Yeah, soft. Do you want to touch by yourself? Yes. You don't want to touch it? Okay. Do you like it? Do you like to see it? Yes. Can I touch this on your cheeks? Yes. Ah, how does it feel? This is a peacock feather. Thank you. So this is how I tell stories to, thank you, to autistic children, where at times they would come to grab the puppets, or the best part would be using this tactile thingy, where few children would be so interested, so that they would show their hand where I used to, make them to feel. At the same time, I sometimes ask them to touch, because some children might feel scared to even touch this. So I give them space and I ask them to, touch and feel by themselves in their own comfort zone. If they deny, I would definitely not go near them, and I will just tell them, I would insist them, like, whenever you feel like doing it, you can touch. So thank you for listening.
Oh my gosh, thank you. I love it. And I love that the consent is there. Consent is so important in everyday aspect, even with sensory, because I can tell you, as again, as an autistic person, there are some days where it's like, please do not touch me because it will physically hurt. All right, so wow, thank you, thank you. We're gonna go back to screen sharing, and I'm just gonna go ahead and turn off my video camera because I know exactly what it's gonna do. And all right. So we've covered basically that first part, which is the basics of storytelling and autism, and you've just seen your first story about telling to an autistic audience, or yeah, in Banu's case, telling to an autistic audience. So can that be applied to autistic adults as well? Absolutely. I even though I love the story, and I still, like I said, have echolalia with hers as well, going crow, crow, crow. I can't use that with all autistic adults. So in my case, I'll get very real with you guys. I have a story about how I'm 42 and I've breastfed my children. I've lost 100 pounds. And so there are certain things in life that have gravity has taken hold, if women understand. I'm sure you do. And so, right, so they tend to fall closer to the floor. And so I use visuals that way in my storytelling to try to get my point across. And uh, autistic individuals who are listening to me love it because I'm using those visuals. So again, so when we're telling, so we've covered that. So let's talk about when we talk to autistic individuals in the audience, when they're the listener. Again, those repetitiveness, those visual and tactile gestures. While Banu's story is great, she has a very wonderful tone. It's slow and then fast when it needs to be. It's not intimidating. It's not overpowering. Sometimes autistic people can get intimidated by loud sounds, bangs, bold things if it's surprising, right? I don't think it's any surprise to you that, hey, we don't like to be surprised or out of our routine or comfort zone. So if we're talking about a story that has thunder or lightning, I'm not going to use a visual or tactile sensory engagement with cymbals or banging. I may describe it first and say the clouds came in, they were gray and dark, and use my voice to describe the darkness. And then maybe show how thunder can go. And then I maybe ask the audience, if they were children, I may say, what does thunder sound like? Boom, it goes boom. And then use my voice to make the sound maybe. Because again, we don't want to scare the audience. And again, that brings me to my next point, which is having them respond back. Anu made a great example of that. Again, we may not always respond because we're listening or we're processing, but sometimes having that engagement, having them touch the feather, having them ask questions, because I know and I get it, when you're looking out in the audience, we're stimming, we may not be making eye contact. Our facial expressions are different from yours. We're laughing maybe at a premise instead of a punchline. Maybe we're laughing a minute after the punchline instead of during, because we took too long to process. And that's going to happen. So those are things that you may want to look for. But again, it's okay. This is how we think. The other thing that I know that helps when telling to an autistic listener is melody and rhythm. Everything has a cadence, even storytellers. I know when I rehearse and I see other people rehearse as a performer, you're doing it with rhythm and cadence. Why? Because you're trying to memorize your lines, right? Every actor does that. And how do you do it? You're doing it by either singing or trying to get a rhythm in there. Autistic people do the very same thing, and it becomes almost second nature. And again, I hate to call Banu out so much. I don't mean to put a spotlight on you right now. But again, what's that first line that everyone's going to go home and remember now? It's crow, crow, crow. I am a crow. Because again, it has that cadence right at the beginning. So how do we help engage that autistic listener in the audience? How do we keep them safe and feel comfortable in their environment? Well, topics of interest. That's basically the main point. We don't want to tell them a story that they don't like. We tend to have hyperfixations, special interests. Obviously, mine is comedy and storytelling and my own personal stuff. But if you're talking about somebody who is deeply interested in, let's say, the paranormal field, or someone who's deeply interested in biology, you're not going to tell them a story about, I don't know, cooking or food. It's not going to interest them. You're going to lose them right away, no matter how engaging your story is. Sensory needs are met. And again, I understand that we all have sensory needs that are all over the place, but that's where accommodations and support needs come in, and support services. And understanding our behaviors and emotions, and just having patience with us and having compassion. You know, like I said, we may not get it right away. We may laugh at a different time. I'll tell you a quick story. My son, we went to a church because his grandparents are Christianity, and they were playing a movie where this person was being thrown into a pit. I don't even remember what it was, but my son was laughing because everybody in the movie was laughing, and he was just laughing because he was trying to fit in with the movie. But he didn't understand that in the movie, it was a sad time. Even though the people who were pushing the guy in were laughing, that's not the point. The point is that the poor person in the pit was sad. That's what we were supposed to focus on. But he didn't get that. And of course, everybody at the church then actually kicked us out of the church and told us not to come back because we had laughed at the wrong part. My son did. And, you know, so they didn't show us that compassion and that patience. Distance and proximity to an audience is always helpful as well. Can't tell you how many times I've been in an audience and the teller on stage has been too far away. I can't hear them. You'll find that a lot of autistic people have not only processing disorders, but they have hearing issues. They may not have a hearing aid, or maybe they do have a hearing aid. So we tend to get kind of lost. So, you know, come a little closer if you need to. We're not going to bite. And making sure that you are clear and concise, nonsensical talk, even metaphors. While I enjoy metaphors, don't put too many of them in. We won't understand it. You have to be very clear because we will take everything literally. So with that said, before we get into our next part, I do want to have someone else share their story. Sureka, again, I was so engaged with this story because I found it in a different way. Instead of puppets, again, telling to young adults or young children, but now we're using, again, that visually engaging and tactile piece and engaging the senses. But now we're doing it with like drawing. And it was so enjoyable to watch the story. And I really would like to share that with you as well today. So without further ado, if we could spotlight Sureka, I would like to introduce her as well.
Hello, everyone. Hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Wonderful to be here with so many of you from so many parts of the world, you know. So I'm going to share a draw and tell story. It's one of my favorite stories. And it's a puzzle story. So you have to tell me at the end of the story, who is Alexander? Are we ready? One day, Katie took Alexander to the park and she told Alexander, Alexander, you wait here. I'm going to get you a nice balloon. And this is the balloon she got him. But when Katie came back, Alexander was not there. And in Alexander's place was a lovely blue butterfly. And here's the butterfly. Butterfly, have you seen my friend Alexander? I have a balloon for him, but I can't find him. Alexander? What is an Alexander? I don't know any Alexander. He's my friend, and I'm looking for him to give him this balloon. Please help me, Butterfly. Go and ask Mrs. Duck. She lives on the other side of the park, by the big pond. And so Katie ran to the pond. And there by the big pond was Mrs. Duck with all her friends. Quack, 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 quack. Can you all say that? Do you know what ducks say? Quack, quack, quack. Mrs. Duck, have you seen my friend Alexander? Quack. What is an Alexander? I don't know any Alexander. Quack. And I'm too busy. Go and ask the frog. He's doing his morning exercises on the other side. Okay, said Katie. And she ran to where Mrs. Duck pointed. And there was Mr. Frog, standing on one leg doing his morning exercises. Frog. Mr. Frog, hi, I'm Katie. Have you seen my friend Alexander? Frog. Alexander. What is an Alexander? I don't know any Alexander. Oh, please, Mr. Frog. He's my friend and I have a balloon for him. Could you please help me? Go and ask the owl. He lives in the hole in the big tree over there. He's the wise one in this park. He will help you. So Katie, she ran to the big tree, and there in the hole in the big tree was Mr. Owl, and he was fast asleep. Oh, he has a sharp beak and a sharp claw. He might peck me if I wake him up, said Katie. And she was scratching her head, wondering what to do when she heard a funny sound coming from the other side. So she went to look, and it was Mrs. Squirrel collecting nuts for the winter. Oh, everybody in this park is too busy. Maybe I should go back to where I first left Alexander. Maybe he's come back. And so she ran back to where she left Alexander, and Butterfly was still there. Oh, Butterfly, can you please help me? It's so late and I must find Alexander. Can you fly around the park and look for him? Okay, said Butterfly. And she flew away and she looked and she looked. And then she came flying back and she said, Katie, I think I can see an Alexander coming that way. So Katie ran to where she pointed, and there was that naughty Alexander with 2 paper bags in his hand. Oh, Katie, look what I got you, a donut for you and a donut for me, said Alexander with a big smile. And I'm sorry, I can't draw very well with a paper like this. So I hope you could solve this puzzle and tell me who is Alexander. Thank you.
Yay, thank you. I love it. It's a bear. Yeah, that's the engagement right there. You're following along with that paper. And not only is it adorable, but anyone who follows the story then feels a sense of accomplishment and purpose. Because if you're not a drawer, like me, I'm not an artist at all in that sense. You feel like, oh my gosh, I just drew a bear. and that's pretty cool. At least I think it is anyways. I got one more storyteller for you up next, and then we'll kind of move along into our activity, because I do have an activity for you guys today. So the next one is, her name is Shivani. Right now it's jibber jabber, which I love. This story is kind of more geared for younger adult, like an adolescent, maybe like a younger teen, maybe a younger adult. But I still love the story because it's engaging nonetheless, and it has such a great message. And I wanted everyone to have a sense of what it was like to see from, again, from puppets to drawing to that message for an older. I wanted you to have a sense of all different types of storytelling and engagement. And again, just this person, again, loved the story, loved the message. And so without further ado, here is Shivani.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shivani. All the children and young adults with neurodiversity that I work with call me jibber jabber because I talk a lot, which is needed when you work with people who are neurodiverse. The story that I'm going to share with you today is about a young girl who goes to school, and it's all about her unique sandwiches. And the reason that I've chosen sandwiches is because everybody understands sandwiches, everybody likes sandwiches. So it was a relatable topic. Now, the reason I tell this story is also because I want to instill that confidence in children and young adults with autism, that even though they're different, but they are unique. And that's kind of the message that I try to bring out through the story. The idea, whenever I tell a story, my intention is that out of the 5 senses, they should be able to use at least 3 senses in the story, because using their senses is extremely important for our children and young adults with autism. So here I go. For me today, all of you here who are listening to my story are neurodiverse. So I hope you will be, you'll interact with me. I'll ask you questions. So yeah, just be ready for all the questions. Okay, so Carla is a little nervous, and she's also a little scared. Yeah, you know why she's scared? Because she's going to a new school. So when you go to a new place, do you feel a little bit scared? Can I see how you feel scared? Yeah, oh my God, yes. And why is she scared? Because she doesn't know what kind of friends she's going to make. Is it going to be a big school or a small school? Is it going to have lots of colors? So she's worried. So her mama gives her a big, tight hug and reminds her that, Carla, you have something very, very unique right there in your tiffin. So don't forget your sandwich. And suddenly, Carla is smiling. Can I see your big smiles, please? Because that's how happy Carla is, because she remembered her sandwich. So soon, Carla reaches her classroom, and all the children in her classroom welcome Carla. And everybody's shouting, Carla, come and sit with me. No, Carla's going to sit with me. Carla looks around, and she's still smiling, by the way. All her fears are gone because she knows she's going to make some lovely friends in her new class. Carla goes and sits next to this young boy named Buster. She goes and sits, and Buster says hello to her and says, welcome to my new class, Carla. And the 3 hours pass by, and Carla makes new friends in her classroom. And then rings the bell. Dun, 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 dun. Can we all ring the bell together, please? Because it's going to be lunch break. Dun, 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 dun. And everybody opens up their lunch boxes. And so does Carla. The moment Carla opens her lunch box, she looks at her sandwich. But Buster, sitting right next to her, looks at her sandwich and says, ew, disgusting. What is that, Carla? Carla looks at her sandwich and says, it's my sandwich, but it's green and it's gooey and it's yucky. Oh, Carla says, no, it's not gooey and yucky. It's my very different and unique sandwich. So Buster says, well, what have you put inside your dirty, gooey, green sandwich? And Carla says, happily, oh, I've put some pickle, I've put some olives, I've put some green beans, and I've put some cottage cheese. Yummy. Ugh, says Buster, and he picks up his lunchbox and goes and sits next to Leslie. Every single day, Carla brings a new sandwich. On Tuesday, do you know what she has in her sandwich? Do you want to know? She has baked beans and noodles. Oh, on Wednesday, can Simi tell me what did Carla bring in her sandwich on Wednesday? What do you think she got in her sandwich?
Some baby corn and tomatoes.
Yes, and with that, she put some pretzels as well, Simi. Ooh, do you know what happened on Thursday? Does Momo want to tell me what Carla got in her sandwich on Thursday?
Oh, she has chips and nuts and cream.
Yes, that's right. And then on Friday, Selena, would you like to tell me what did Carla bring in her creative and different sandwich?
Cream cheese, sardines, and some popcorn.
Oh, yes, you're right. Very good, Selena. Very good. So, like this, all the children saw Carla's, well, disgusting but creative sandwiches, but nobody wanted to sit with Carla. On Monday, Carla was sitting all alone because nobody was sitting with her. If nobody sat with you, Erica, in your lunch break, would that make you happy or would that make you sad? Sad, right? Yes. So Carla was sad too. But soon the class teacher came into the classroom and said, hello, everyone. I have an announcement to make. All the children kept quiet and looked at the teacher with their big round eyes. How big? Big round eyes. Ooh, yeah, very big. And the teacher said, tomorrow we're all going to go for a picnic to the park. And I want you all to bring your special sandwiches. Ah, that made Carla very happy. And can you tell me why, David? Why was Carla so happy when the teacher said, bring a sandwich?
Carla loves her special sandwiches.
Absolutely right. And did you like Carla's sandwiches, David?
Some of them are intriguing.
I know, they were different, right? They had all these lovely, colorful, and some nice, some not so nice ingredients. So Carla was really excited. She went home, took out all the things from the fridge. Now, you all have a fridge as well, right? So Sudha, can you tell me, what did Carla take out of the fridge to make a lovely creative sandwich? I can't hear you, Sudha. Still can't hear you. Okay, so if something like this happens with someone who has autism, you tell them, Sudha, I'm going to come back to you, okay? You fix up your voice, you fix up the speaker, and I'll come back to you. But then I'm going to go to Juliana. Juliana, what did Carla take out of the fridge to make her creative sandwich?
She took out cucumber and baked beans.
Okay.
Eggs,
okay.
tomatoes, and mayonnaise.
Mayonnaise. But Juliana, what do you think? There's one thing missing which is needed for a sandwich.
Oh, bread.
bread. Well done, Juliana. Yes. And Sudha says we're going to put some cheese slice. But today Carla decided she wanted to put something else. Do you know what? Do you know what okras are? Yes.
Yeah, okay.
She had fried okras and she wanted to make her sandwich really crunchy. So she put some okras as well. And as soon as her sandwiches were ready, she packed it up in her lunchbox and put it in the fridge. The next morning, Carla was the first one to arrive in her classroom with her special, unique sandwich. But all the other children were together, gossiping, talking to each other, looking at each other's lunchbox. But not Carla. Carla was standing all alone. Soon, all the children sat in the bus and they went to the park. After playing some games with each other, the teacher said it's time to open the lunchbox. It's time for a break. Everybody took out their sandwiches. Do you know Leslie got a sandwich made with peanut butter? And Nati got a sandwich made with butter and cheese and cucumber. And Carla opened her sandwich as well. But on the other side of the park, do you remember the boy that Carla sat with in the class on her first day? Who remembers the boy's name? Why don't you unmute and tell me?
Buster.
Buster, well done, Selena. Yes. So Buster was looking through his bag, turning it upside down. There was something he was looking for clearly. He couldn't find something. He was going through, he took out everything from his bag outside. Oh no, I have forgotten my lunchbox today, said Buster. Nobody heard him because all the other children of the class were busy eating their yummy, yummy sandwiches. But Carla looked at Buster and then she looked at her sandwich. Then she looked at Buster again. Do you know what she was thinking? She was thinking, should she offer her sandwich to Buster? Should she share her sandwich with Buster? When she saw a sad Buster sitting on the other side of the park, Carla slowly went to Buster and said, Buster, would you like to try my sandwich? Ew, never. I don't want to try your sandwiches ever. Carla said, but you know, today is a very unique sandwich. You're going to love it. Why don't you give it a try? No. And Buster refused. So Carla went and sat down. But Buster wasn't happy because everybody around him was eating and his stomach was going grum, 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 right? His stomach was grumbling, yes. And why was his stomach grumbling? Because he was, Erica, but why was his stomach grumbling?
He was hungry.
He was hungry, very good. And Momo, when you feel hungry, what do?
I eat something.
You eat something. Well done. Yes, you go to the fridge or you ask an elder in the house to help you get something to eat. So Buster looked at Carla again. And Carla was watching, by the way. And Carla went to Buster again and said, do you want to try one bite, Buster? All the other children stopped and looked at Buster. Is he going to eat a bite or is he not going to eat a bite? Buster picked up Carla's sandwich, brought it close to his lips, and we're all going to hold Carla's sandwich and we're going to bring it close to our mouth. We're going to look left. We're going to look right because Buster was looking at all the children and he opened his mouth slowly. Hum. Hum. Before you knew it, Carla's sandwich was finished. Buster smacked his lips. Can we all smack our lips, please? And the fingers. oh my God, this is the best sandwich ever. All the other children came running towards Carla and said, Carla, have you got more sandwich? Have you got more sandwich? Said Leslie and Matey. And Carla took out her big box of so many sandwiches. And she said, I've got a little piece for everyone today. And Carla gave us small bites and small bites and small bites to all her friends in her class. And all of them ate the lovely, creative, and very different sandwich of Carla. And you will not believe it. The next day, all the children got their creative and unique sandwiches in class. Can you believe it? Yes. Yes. So everybody loved Carla's sandwiches so much that they wanted to bring sandwiches just like hers. So that was our story about Carla and her unique sandwich. Thank you very much.
Yay, thank you so much, Shivani. That story has so many layers, like between sharing and creative and confidence. Like I can't even begin there.
If I can just say, Audra, so when I do this story, I tell the children and young adults to bring bread, to bring some ingredients to prepare a sandwich. Because what happens is a lot of children and young adults with autism will have sensory issues, which means they may not be able to touch the bread, for example. They may not be able to take the smell of the pickle, for example. But with my experience, I can tell you that children who have, or adults as well, young adults who have never touched a particular food ingredient or a product ever because of sensory issues, were able to do that after this storytelling session, because the storytelling session creates that safe environment for them and inspires them to do things which, you know, otherwise you would think that people with autism would never do. So I'm so passionate about stories, especially with people with intellectual disability, because I feel they understand every single thing you speak. The only challenge they face is when they have to communicate. So you have to keep asking questions. You have to keep using emotions in your storytelling, because the challenge they face is to express their emotions and feelings. So cues they will take from your face. So you have to include that. You have to include sound. You have to make it interactive, especially when they start stimming. So if you feel that their attention is getting diverted because they need that stimming to calm themselves, you do call them out and say something. Not always will you get a response, but you have to know that you've got their attention. And always give a pause before their response, because they take that much time to process the information. But yeah, storytelling can make them do wonders. Thank you.
Thank you. I can't believe it. We're already over an hour into this. And so we're almost to the end here, like I said before, our activity. So I want to bring up Eric before the end here. And so let's bring up Eric before we get to the end of this workshop, since Eric is the one who's really put together this whole thing. He's really responsible for everything in this whole storytelling world over there. So without further ado, the legend of all of this, Eric.
Okay, so, this is the last session of the day, so we can go a little overtime. I think it is important that, Audra, that you send us into breakout rooms after this to apply some of what we've learned. I'm just going to take 1 minute to show some of the play activities I do with my storytelling students, both typical and atypical. Please keep your mic off, keep it muted, but please make sound along with me. And if you either sitting down or standing up, physically either imitate me or respond to me. So first we'll do some emotions and then some animals. Okay, emotions. Oh, let me see. Oh. See, I'm doing a sound and a gesture together. That's repetition on different tracks. Oh no. Oh no. Let me see. Oh no. Idea. 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 Ooh, that's disgusting. Ew. I'm gonna get you. You should run away from me. No, you should run away from me. I'm gonna get you. And then if you say, I'm gonna get you, I'll have to run away from you. Okay, what other emotions are there? Oh, that's so beautiful. So beautiful. Extend the vowel. So beautiful. Oh, I can't stand it. Oh, I just love it. So, go through all the different emotions. Now for animals, we have stereotypical sounds with each animal. Like a horse is neigh, neigh. Let me see you do the body language of the horse. I don't want to hear the neigh, but neigh, neigh. And of course, when you're telling story, you can combine the animal sound with language. So I want to have some water. So whatever the animal sound is. So I had a session with an atypical young person the other day, and I happened to do the elephant trumpet. Now the elephant trumpet is very difficult. It's very difficult to sound like an elephant, at least for me. Everybody try it. Woo! 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 I bet some of you are better than me. Anyway, this young person really enjoyed this thing. And for the rest of the session, and then later when I was meeting with the person's parent and all, the young person kept doing it again and again just for fun. Woo! Interrupting the conversation. Who cares, right? Having fun with the elephant sound is more important than conversation. So woo! It also gave me the idea to do the howling of wolves. Awoo! Come on, everybody try it. Awoo! Awoo! So I suggested to the young person regarding the elephant, the person might develop a story about that elephant. Is there any emotion that the elephant is trying to express? Is there any feeling? Is there any motivation? When the elephant is going, woo, woo, woo. Is the elephant trying to tell anybody something? So I just suggested, see if anything develops in your imagination in relation to that sound and gesture that you like so much. Okay, that's my bit.
All right, thank you.
Oh, oh.
That's now going to be stuck in my head with the crow. That's like all going to be all one now. Crow, crow. Woo! My new echolalia pattern. That's okay though. I enjoy it. I am going to stop my video for the moment because it is always going to do something weird. So we're going to get into our activity, which is great because I'm glad Eric went, because this brings us into our activity, which is an improv activity, and Eric does use it, like he just said, for clients, and I use it in my improv teams. I'm going to choose a topic, which is, I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to be related to animals. We're going to get out into breakout rooms. You are going in your breakout rooms. I want you to talk with the people in the breakout room about, what is this? What is it? What does it feel like? What's involved? What does it smell like? What's the purpose? Why is it here? Everything that you can possibly think of about this topic. Just words. You don't have to have sentences per se, because we're only going to have a few minutes, but again, anything that comes to mind, don't stop the thinking process. This is about getting words out or pictures out, or however you're going to communicate, because again, it's a nonstop flow. This will help with a storytelling process of getting that story out. And there's no right or wrong answer. So we are going to use animals today for that. And I'm going to stop share my screen since I only put that up there just for you guys to see. Eric, did you have and I know you had, did you have anything in mind?
Well, I think we were planning 2 different breakout rooms. First, to think about ideas, and then second, to apply all these methods to the telling of a story. But I think conditions being what they are, maybe you should have us do it all in one.
So we're just going to do it all in one. So take, again, if you can write, great. If you want to put it in a communication device, draw it, whatever you can in your breakout room. Put a few words, sentences, something together. And I'm gonna do an animal. So we're just gonna do an animal, just because I have elephants and crows on the brain. And the animal I'm gonna choose is, do you guys know what a prairie dog is? Heard of prairie dogs? So if you have, or something similar, think about prairie dogs, their environment, everything about a prairie dog. So
like a gopher.
Yeah, it's like a gopher, exactly.
But in India, I don't know what we have like that.
Yeah, and so do you have rooms assigned already here, Eric, or?
No, I'll just do it real quick, but with people who have their cameras on and off. Approximately how many people do you want in a room?
4 to 5. That way it's.
Okay, well, there's 33 people. So help me with the math. How many rooms is that? That's
30.
6 rooms, 5 rooms, because a couple of people are gonna have their cameras turned off. Okay, let's say.
Yep, that's fine.
Okay, just give me a second here. Recreate automatically. Okay.
Okay,
is everybody ready?
About 4 to 5 minutes, guys, and then we'll break out of them, okay?
Okay, and they're supposed to come up with a little improv, applying some of the methods to the prairie dog.
To the prairie dog, yep.
Okay, prairie dog stays close to the ground. It lives in holes in the ground, so it's coming up and out of the holes all the time, up and down out of the holes. Okay, here we go. Open the rooms. Karen? Karen, do you hear me? Karen, if you hear me, I'm seeing your image frozen. You might quit out of the program and come back in again. In the meantime, I'm going to pause the recording.
Okay. All right, so most everybody's back. Once everyone comes back, Eric is recording, and we'll go ahead and get started again. I hope that everybody kind of went down this path and started something. I'll go ahead and share kind of what happened with us is that when you start with a word, prairie dog, you kind of go in this direction about that could lead totally somewhere else. I mean, we were talking about a gopher in the backyard that was munching, that went to corn on the cob, that went to the Lewis and Clark expedition. So it takes you in many different directions. And then you can take those ideas and expand on them. And then it becomes this whole meaningful story. And that's how you get real ideas on paper. Let me share my screen and we'll go ahead and finish up the rest of this presentation. So what we have left here is the autistic storyteller. We've talked about the basics. We've talked about talking to an autistic listener. Well, what about people like me, the autistic storyteller? How do we support us? Well, like I said, the format's not going to be formal because I'm not going to follow that sequence all the time. I need an environment that's sensory friendly with those accommodations. Somebody, if you don't know, her name is Carly Fleischman. She's a great example of what happens that can go wrong. She was doing an interview with a very famous comedian out here in the US, and they shot confetti onto the stage during her TV production. And of course, during the middle of this, she decides that she's going to stop in the middle of her interview and her story and pick up the confetti off the stage. Why? Because she has severe OCD. That should have been taken into consideration, and no confetti should have been shot onto the stage. We have executive functioning issues, organization. Again, I'm not going to follow that format. I may not be planning as well. Time management, deadlines, these are all things that have to be taught to me. I don't have instilled time management skills, and getting those ideas on paper is very hard. You're not going to get me to sit and write an entire essay word for word. So like that game that I showed you, the improv game, helps me because then at least I have words. I can improv the rest, but I have my ideas. And of course, communication, making sure that we're prepared and accommodating for any form of communication that autistic teller has, whether it's pictures, drawing, sounds, communication devices, things like that. Some, like I said, are deaf. Many are deaf or have hard of hearing. You will need a sign language interpreter just in case. Like I said, sequencing may not always be the same. Watch for that, because that means that if my sequencing is not the same, it's probably because I'm putting emphasis or importance on that part, and it's important to me in the story. When I have mimicry or echolalia, I'm repeating something. It's because, again, it's important to me in my story. My behaviors and my emotions are going to show you what's important. My stimming is not always going to be anxiety related. It's going to be sometimes very happy related. There's times I have flapped my arms during a story because I'm so excited, and I get excited and my hands will just go. And that's me saying, hey, this part is joyful. One accommodation I always love to show is because things tend to get so formal, is that I think notebooks should be, or paper should be, allowed on a stage. While I think you should be telling naturally and memorizing as much as you can, conditions don't always leave us with that. I do have memory issues due to medication because I do have epilepsy. So just be mindful that if someone needs a notebook, please do not judge them for it. And of course, supporting us by those sensory needs. Let us touch the equipment. Practice in the same environment. Volume control. The microphone. Let us hold it, feel it. How does it feel in space? Let me play with it. How does it feel when I'm holding it around my body? If you are able-bodied, walk on stage. How high is the stage? How low is it? Where does it sit in comparison, proximity to the audience? Lighting is very important. And of course, accessibility, because we have some who are in wheelchairs or use aids to walk. Are these places accessible? And can we get that teller on stage? And those are questions that, again, no judgment, we just need to be aware of before the autistic teller gets to any venue. Honoring our voices and making sure that we're respected. We do like criticism and honest feedback, as long as it's delivered clearly and concisely with good intention. Shivani said it very much, that we may not be able to read emotions or feelings all the time, but there's one thing I can tell you, is that autistic people, pretty much all of us, have very deep empathy. We can read energy like nobody's business. And so if we know that your intentions are not good, or that they don't come from a pure place, we'll know. I promise we'll know. And understanding that one perspective, again, is just as valid as anybody else. We all have our own purpose. And that, I think there's two things in this life for everybody, is that in order for us to be a successful human, not just getting our survival needs and human rights or human needs met, but we need to have confidence and we need to have a purpose in this life. And I think storytelling does that for many of us. So that is my references. I hope you have enjoyed today. I hope you have learned something, and I hope you take some of these skills and bring them into your world. Thank you.
And I want to say that I had so many, must have been 25 or 30 emails today of parents. The parents said, I have an autistic child. I want to attend the session tonight. We want to attend the session. I think there's a big need for training, storytelling training for autistic people. So I'll see if let's see if we can, get this together.
Yeah, very
and
open.
Audra, you can say what you like about all these things. You have been a delight to work with.
Thank you.
I say that for myself, and I'm sure Shivani and Banu will agree. It's
Yes, this
you're
has
on the
been
other
fun.
side of the
Look,
world. You're in Seattle, the total other side of the world from India, but it's like you're right here with us, like we're right here with you. So I want to thank you so much.
yes, and I see the chat, and I will put my contact information in the chat for everybody.
Audrey, I also have a son with autism, so I can resonate with everything you said today. So thank you so much. He's 18, so I have an young adult with autism. So it was a treat watching you. And now I realize so many things. When you said about mimicry, he practically mimics everyone who goes around. So I now know why he does that,
Yeah, it's a form of flattery. Like I said, Banu should take it as a form, Shivani and Sureka, you take it as a form of flattery, because I go out now saying this stuff because I loved it.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
Anyone else want to say anything? Well, here, anyway, let me turn off the recording for one thing.